Imagine getting to retirement, looking back and realizing you actually lost almost $500,000 due to fees and costs. If you're using the multiply by 25 rule to determine how much money you need to be able to retire, losing $500,000 means you would have lost out on $20,000 a year, assuming a 4% return after inflation. That $20,000 a year loss is not even part of the actual $500,000 you lost. The $20,000 a year is on the returns you would have made on that money. So the true loss is even more depending on how long your retirement lasts. If you want to learn more about the multiply by 25 rule and how much it takes to retire early, check out my video, How Much Money Do You Need to Retire Early? $500,000 is a lot of money. And that's why this is so important. So many times people see small fees and costs and apply them to the amount of money they're putting in now. But that's a big mistake because the true loss is not only the money now, but also the future potential investment gains. So I want to go over with you investment fees and costs that kill your returns over time. Let's jump right in. Hey everyone, this is Lauren Mack with Hacking the Rat Race, and I would love for you to hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss any more videos on money, saving, and investing. You may be thinking, yeah right Lauren, I'll probably not even have $500,000 in retirement, much less lose it. But you'd be surprised. You can check out my video called How to Become a Millionaire Making $40,000 per year. I'll have it at the end of this video and in the show notes below. If you learn how to invest, even with simple strategies, and start investing as much as you can, you will be surprised at the magic of compound interest can make over time. The first cost that people often overlook or don't pay much attention to is the expense ratios. For investments like mutual funds, index funds, or ETFs, you'll have an expense ratio, which is the cost to run the fund. When deciding between different funds, this is something to always take into consideration because it can vary wildly. One of the lowest I've seen is Fidelity's 500 index fund, stock ticker FXAIX, coming in at 0.015%. And one of the highest I've seen is Amplify High Income ETF, stock ticker YYY, coming in at 2.45%. 2.45% is really high. Normally you'll see the higher expense ratios around 1.4%, which is more often the case for a mutual fund. Regardless, it's imperative that you review this and calculate it to your returns on investment. Let's look at an example. For our example, let's use someone who's 25 years old and they invest $250 a month at a 10% return. Let's say they continue this for the next 40 years until they're 65 years old. Then we'll take the expense ratios of 0.015%, 1.4%, and 2.45% and compare the difference that makes over 40 years. For the expense ratio of 0.015%, you would have made $1,393,106.23. If your expense ratio was 1.4%, you would have made $953,102.61. The difference is $440,003.62. If your expense ratio was 2.45%, you would have made $718,898.88. The difference is $674,207.35. The last example is over $500,000. The amount you lost versus the amount you made is almost equal. This is why it's so important. Oftentimes, people think 1% isn't very much, or even a fraction of a percent, and maybe it isn't much on the amount you put in. But when you account for compounding interest over time, it can make a big difference. So next time you're looking at different funds to invest in, it's important that you pay close attention to the expense ratio. You also want to look at other factors when investing, but don't overlook this because you think a percent or a fraction of a percent of $250 is not much. The next thing to pay attention to are transaction fees. Transaction fees are things like commissions by brokers when you buy and sell, or like a sales load, which is something you pay up front on some mutual funds that basically works like a commission that goes to the person who got you to sign up for the mutual fund. Some brokerage firms even have ongoing account maintenance fees. You should be very cognizant of this because there are so many brokerage firms nowadays that don't charge fees, like Charles Schwab, Fidelity. For the few fees that they do charge, you can find them on their website. When choosing a brokerage firm, this is something I would take into consideration because fees over time are just going to be eating away at your returns. Don't think that a little here and a little there is not a big deal. As we saw in the last example, it can make a huge difference over time. Another thing that people rarely consider that can erode your investment over time are taxes. Obviously, people know that taxes exist and that they're being taxed, but it isn't often that people really consider exactly the impact they're having and really explore options to minimize them. For example, if someone should invest in a Roth IRA versus a regular IRA, depending on your tax bracket, this can make a huge difference. Additionally, many people don't consider things like a Roth ladder, which can convert your traditional IRA to a Roth IRA once you're in retirement, or taking advantage of the foreign earned income tax credit. If you use a Roth ladder, this is a way you can get your traditional IRA money out tax-free using the standard deduction that the IRS gives you. If you're interested in how the Roth ladder works, comment below Roth ladder and I'll make a future video explaining how to do it. Another area taxes can be an issue is investing in mutual funds versus an ETF. In a mutual fund, the fund manager buys and sells positions to keep the fund balanced and working to get the highest returns. However, when the fund manager buys and sells positions, this can create a tax event. That could mean you have to pay taxes while holding the mutual fund. However, if you invest in an index fund via an ETF, it's only tracking the underlying index, and since positions are not being bought and sold, the interim taxing events are almost non-existent. If you want to learn more about the difference between an index fund, mutual fund, or an ETF, then check out my video called Index Fund, Mutual Fund, or ETFs, which is best for becoming a millionaire. I'll add it at the end of this video and in the show notes below. Another fee people often don't consider are investment advisory fees, or basically paying a financial advisor to manage your investments. This normally runs around 1% per year, depending on the financial advisor. Like in the first example, people often think, well, it's just 1%, and since I don't really understand investing, I'll just trust an expert. There are a few problems here. First, even if you decide to use an investor, you should at minimum understand what they are investing in and how it works. You can learn the basics of investing pretty quickly. Moreover, with brokerage firms offering no commissions or transaction fees for buying shares of stocks, mutual fund, index funds, ETFs, there is no reason you should not be able to purchase these items yourself. One reason people often use advisors is to make sure they have a balanced portfolio. There are plenty of target date funds you can use, or even robo investing options that are free or 75% less than an advisor. Additionally, I have another video called How to Get a Free Financial Advisor that I'll put in the show notes below and also at the end of this video. Literally, saving you 1% is huge. If we use the example earlier in the video, with a 1% annual advisory fee, you would make $1,062,662.12. The difference between that and the expense ratio of 0.015% that we discussed earlier is $330,441.11, which equals roughly $1,000 a month lost by using the multiple by 25 rule. And again, this is on top of the $330,000 you lost paying that 1% fee. So really, you're looking at thousands of dollars. This is why when you're considering using an advisor, you should research them well and calculate the returns over time. If you want to learn more about how much it takes to retire early, how to get a free financial advisor, or learn the difference between index funds, mutual funds, and ETFs, and which is best to become a millionaire, then click the videos here. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.